Today on Playing a Blinder.
A pack of Monopoly money.
There's £10,000 there. Oh wow!
A video has been shared online which shows anti-vaxxer Piers Corbyn accepting £10,000 to stop criticising AstraZeneca. But what he actually got was an envelope full of Monopoly money. Gutted.
Go nuts on my nuts.
Hi, it's me, Creaky. Now luckily, anti-vaxxers still only represent a minority of people. However, there are none quite as high profile as Piers Corbyn, brother of Labour politician Jeremy Corbyn, and as this picture shows, an infrequent visitor to the barber shop. But I'm not here to mock his appearance. I mean, it's not his fault he looks like a homeless man. This whole video was a prank set up by YouTubers Josh Peters and Archie Manners, who pose as shareholders in AstraZeneca that are concerned about the negative impact of Piers Corbyn's anti-vaccine speeches. Now, we've all seen anti-vaxxers before spreading dangerous misinformation all over the internet, so surely their beliefs are so strong and so non-negotiable, there's no way one of them could be convinced to change their viewpoint over something as trivial as money, is there? Tidy.
Archie and I offered Piers Corbyn a dodgy donation of £10,000, told him I was an investor in AstraZeneca, and that we'd like him to leave AstraZeneca alone and focus his anti-vaccine work on Pfizer and Moderna.
No chance. We all know that these people have everyone's best interests at heart, and they are definitely not just social media sheep that believe everything they read on Facebook because some guy said something somewhere that somehow managed to convince them that, well, we all know what they think. So in the video, Josh Peters can be seen purchasing shares worth £100 in AstraZeneca to ensure that he can legally pose as a stakeholder. They get in touch with Piers Corbyn via email proposing a donation to his Stop New Normal campaign, and he agrees to meet them.
Meanwhile, Mr. Corbyn was delighted to meet us, so Archie set a time to meet on London's Sloane Square, and I took out £10,000 to give him. There was just one problem.
That he's a money-grabbing scumbag who will say anything he's asked to if the price is right?
Now the problem is, this is quite a lot of money.
Right, quite a lot of money. That was going to be my second guess.
It's like all of our money.
So we don't really want to give it to Piers Corbyn, and this is where the switch comes in. This is going to go into an envelope that we show Piers Corbyn.
Yeah.
Henry White, another magician who's a friend of mine, is then going to come while Ellie, Josh's girlfriend, is taking a photo with Piers Corbyn to switch the envelope containing this money with Josh.
Some Monopoly money. Having put our Monopoly money and our real money into matching brown envelopes, we headed to the meeting.
Right, let's rock and roll.
We set up our tables, briefed our extras, and hid our cameramen. Then, probably the most infectious man in Britain finally arrived.
So, that's the setup. But who is Piers Corbyn, I hear you ask? No, you didn't? Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. He's the older brother of Jeremy Corbyn, who resigned as Labour leader after a crushing defeat in the 2019 general election. The 73-year-old from Southwark, South London, is a well-known climate change denier and also claims that the lager lurgy is a hoax. He also promotes conspiracy theories around 5G. I know, I couldn't believe it either. And he's also running to be the next mayor of London with a Let London Live party. Sorry, London.
Mr. Corbyn!
Well, fantastic.
Absolute pleasure to meet you.
Lovely to see
You
you.
too.
How are you?
Well, I'm very
Have
well.
a seat, have a seat.
We're better to see you.
I've been seeing a lot of you lately all over different
Well,
social
that's
medias
right.
and things.
And that Trafalgar Square on Saturday was...
That was amazing.
I wasn't lucky enough to be there, but it looked unbelievable. Yeah. My family business was restaurants, and then my father runs a very successful restaurant chain in South Africa. He actually started a fund in South Africa that I'm now a director of, so with his overseeing, I do some investments. One of our main interests, funnily enough, is actually we've got shareholdings in the AstraZeneca vaccine. Can you believe that?
Okay, so what they're actually doing here is making that he's fully aware of where this money has actually come from, that he's agreed to accept, because if they hadn't have told him, then he could have just as easily claimed that it was nothing more than the donation of a supporter to his so-called cause. But these guys are very clever and research the people they make videos about very, very well. And they know how embarrassing it's gonna be for Mr. Corbyn when he's exposed for taking a large donation from people with financial interests in one of the companies that he campaigns about.
Piers didn't seem put off that I made money out of AstraZeneca, but shared some wacky views on the other vaccines.
Moderna and Pfizer give those magnetic things, don't they?
Yes.
Well, that is very, very scary.
Magnetic things? Very scientific, Piers. And your evidence for this is... Because you do realise that a Facebook post isn't evidence of anything, apart from how gullible people can be. And anyone that claims they suddenly have magnetic superpowers after getting the vaccine is an idiot. I'm sorry, but there's no polite way of saying it. None of the COVID vaccines contain metals which could even possibly be magnetic. And the needles being used to administer the vaccine are tiny. They're less than 1 millimeter. So even if you injected an extremely magnetic particle into the human body, it would be so small in size there wouldn't be enough force to keep a magnet stuck to your skin anyway. It couldn't possibly be that the people that are demonstrating this have a hidden agenda, or are just faking it. Take a coin and press it onto your forehead. Do it now. Surface tension and the oils in your skin will keep it there, just about long enough to take a picture or record a few seconds of video.
You know, if we can obviously help in any way to help your campaign, that's obviously going to help us. We've got shared interests.
It clearly is. I mean, but yeah, okay. No, absolutely.
We actually even brought along a little something today that was just a token of our intention of helping out with your campaign.
Oh, I see.
So if yes,
yeah, and we like to keep it off the book.
Showed him 10 grand in cash.
But this is obviously just a sort of statement of intent. We'd love to keep funding you. So there's £10,000 there.
That's astounding. I mean,
that
is brilliant.
it's quite rare to have £10,000 in.
Excuse me, we don't want to announce that to the whole. That's just a bit from the safe.
Well, imagine that. Somebody agreeing to take money from strangers in exchange for a more favourable opinion on something. That almost never happens. But Piers did seem quite excited by the cash offered by someone he appears to believe is from AstraZeneca. He basically is saying yes before he even knows what they want in exchange for the money.
Remarkably, Piers was delighted with the money made from the vaccine company, but claimed he couldn't be influenced.
Well, as long as I can accept it with, there's no insistence on any policy changes or anything that I'm doing.
But because we hadn't yet switched the money, we hadn't handed him the envelope. So we tested if he really couldn't be influenced.
And I appreciate you're not asking for a change of policy or anything, but if there is anything that can be done to focus a bit on Pfizer and Moderna, that would be
helpful for us.
A useful thing.
So, knowing that I was an investor in AstraZeneca with a financial interest in other vaccines doing badly, Piers Corbyn started writing down benefits of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Okay, AZ, not a mRNA.
Yeah.
Just
which is magnetic.
Which is a fact, but
it is. I mean, we're not saying change any policy, but if they could be slightly ignored more, that would obviously be helpful for us.
And said yeah to our request for AstraZeneca to be ignored.
My ghast has never been so flabbered. Now, I know this footage has obviously been edited, but it took all of 30 seconds for him to pull out his notepad and start listing all the positives about the AstraZeneca vaccine, one of the vaccines that he's been campaigning against. What a scumbag. Which, by the way, is what Piers here calls the doctors and nurses that administer the vaccine. Such a sweet old man. I bet he's got a pocket full of Werther's originals that he gives out to all the kids he comes across.
Now, of course, we weren't insisting on any policy changes, but it seems Mr. Corbyn was open to the idea of accepting our donation and focusing his efforts on Pfizer and Moderna. It was time for Archie and his magic mate Henry to switch the cash, with the help of my selfie-loving girlfriend.
Never report that.
Sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Because I'm a really big fan.
Oh,
sorry.
I didn't know you were the celebrity.
Okay. All right. As long as you're not wearing a mask,
Thank you. Sorry, my mum's also.
Is that all right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether he's done.
Just his good.
Okay. You live right here?
Yes, totally.
Henry had passed go and collected £10,000, and we were ready to give Piers all the monopoly money a conspiracy theorist could ever want. It was time to talk more business.
Well, come on, you can't blame him there. I mean, who doesn't love a selfie? And I'm not being funny. How the hell didn't he notice the guy in the suit switching envelopes? The only way they could have made that more obvious was if they'd said, Piers, we just switched the real money for monopoly money. I'm so glad they asked a magician to do it. I'm not sure anyone else could have pulled it off.
I'm not going to go into specifics, but we've done very well out of being in.
How much do you think you have made from it?
It's really, I mean, I don't think Dad would want me to say.
For the record, my AstraZeneca shares had made me 7 pence. But Piers thought AstraZeneca was going to make him £10,000, which might not be a great look. But luckily, Piers had a plan.
Now, I try my best not to be too judgmental on this channel. But can anyone be more hypocritical? If you're going to be a spokesperson for blatant misinformation, then at least stick to your guns. You can't be half in, half out. It's an all or nothing deal. What this guy is doing would be the same as me talking shit about flat earthers, mud flooders, and conspiracy theorists in general, but still having a belief in Bigfoot on the side.
People ask where's this come from, I say it's somebody who's a businessman that runs restaurants.
You wouldn't say, you wouldn't say it's come straight from AstraZeneca, even though it has.
About
Yeah, because I mean, technically it kind of has, but we don't have to say that.
I mean, I suppose going forward, it's just that sort of focus on leaving AstraZeneca out of it wherever possible. We appreciate that's not.
We can't have a full policy change, but
No.
we'll focus on Pfizer and Moderna and.
Well, it'll happen anyway, but without any interference, is what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's
Brilliant.
I think that'll be fair.
Oh, no. I wouldn't say it comes straight from one of the companies that I publicly claim to be against. There are already thousands of people that hate me. I don't want the few people that still actually like me to switch teams. What sort of an idiot do you think I am? But of course I'm happy to not talk shit about the company that just handed me a 10 grand bung, and those other two that didn't, well, I think we can all agree that they deserve the shit I was giving AstraZeneca to be equally spread out between the two remaining companies. Unless, of course, the both of them want to try and bribe me with money as well, then they'll be perfectly fine and safe too.
Where's that money gone, by the way?
Oh, I've got it. I've got it. Don't worry. Keeping it safe.
So apparently, the idea that anti-vaxxers will focus on Pfizer and Moderna will now happen anyway, which obviously has nothing to do with our donation. It was time for a quick selfie and a transfer of cold, hard Monopoly money. Whether people choose to get a vaccine or not is entirely their business. But listening to people that spread misinformation about vaccines, particularly when they're accepting £10,000 made from vaccines, is perhaps a different matter altogether.
I completely agree. Get it? Don't get it? You're a grown-up, it's up to you. And as a grown-up, you're free to decide for yourself. But if you're not getting vaccinated because you saw something on social media that made you think it's not safe, you're probably wrong.
Alright, watch this next. But before you do, make sure you subscribe. By order of the Creaky Blinder.